Good morning, everyone. This is Jerby, your certified aromatherapist, graduate of New York Institute of Aromatic Studies, and for today, you're up for another episode of Live Well with Aromatherapist Jerby Go. So for today's episode, I'm going to be covering things that would help you build your own personal brand and eventually kill imposter syndrome. If you're not familiar of the term imposter syndrome, well, apparently 70% of women entrepreneurs suffer from this syndrome. What is an imposter syndrome? Basically, a sign of imposter syndrome is attributing your success to external factors instead of acknowledging them as your own abilities. It's like downplaying your achievements, or these are beliefs in your head that you are not good enough. Okay? So, I just want to keep this episode as an inspiration to everyone out there who is on the fence on pursuing their passion. Like for me, I have never really imagined having my own business. I've never really imagined doing all the things that I'm doing now. Honestly, when I was in college, my goal was to be in PNG. So much so that I didn't even submit my invitation, my application to Unilever Business Week. I was so fixated on my goal to be part of PNG, my desired company, my desired organization since I was in college. And I told myself that, you know what, I'm going to be in this company. It's like all or nothing. I don't want to settle for the second best. I'm sorry, Unilever, but that's how I felt when I was in college. And growing up, all throughout my college life, even in my early years as a young professional, I've always dreamt myself to grow old with PNG. I've imagined myself to, climb up the ladder, eventually get promoted, be a director. Perhaps I'd be thrown out in another country and, live a couple of years there. I've always imagined myself growing old with PNG and eventually earning myself a good pension plan. And I never really imagined things would take turn fairly quickly for me. I only stayed in PNG, my dream company, for 4 years. Imagine that. I didn't expect how quickly my corporate life would turn around. I think I've only stayed in the corporate world for a total of 8 years, half of which is with PNG. Very fruitful, formative years for me as I form my own, work culture. And I would truly be eternally grateful for that. And I would always hold PNG very dear in my heart. But, I realized as short as 4 years, I realized that I needed to be somewhere to pursue what I really want. I was in the finance department in PNG. It wasn't really my dream role. I wanted to be in marketing, so much so that, I had to quit my dream company. I had to quit my college dream and pursue my goal in another company. And eventually, I ended up in Avon. I was in regional brand marketing. It was my dream role finally. But another mishap happened. So I eventually encountered a very difficult boss that made me decide to leave the corporate world entirely. And look where I am now. I wouldn't have it any other way, honestly. Because of those series of events, I wasn't really fixated on my teenage goal. I just took whatever life has given to me, took it one day at a time, and decide at each point in my life. So I came to a point that I realized that, with the same amount of effort that I've been giving to someone else, to the company, to an organization, I could have just given that same amount of hard work to my own company, to myself, and become an entrepreneur. So I'm very, very grateful, honestly, to have found my own niche in every role that I've ever taken since my college life, I'm always very grateful for all the learnings that I've picked up from my first work, from my OJT, from PNG, from the local company that I work for, from handling makeup, all of which have structured me or shaped me to who I am today. So the big question is, how can you stand out and launch something that you can be really, really proud of, like truly your own, truly you? And you might question, what are you doing in your career right now? I mean, where are you in this point of life? I'm sure a lot of you who are listening right now are in the crossroads of your life, especially because of the pandemic. We get a lot of time to introspect, to think about a lot of things. And my only advice for you is to make sure that you grow slowly but surely and eventually evolve to what you are meant to be. Just like what I did. I never really fast-tracked anything about my career. I took it a day at a time. I knew my capabilities. I knew my strengths. I know my standards. I know my work output. I know my quality of work. And I know the things that I deserve. If I deserve a promotion, I know I deserve the promotion. If I deserve to be, placed somewhere, I know I deserve to be in that spot. Same thing all throughout my college life. I know my grades, my final grades, even before my course cards are handed to me. I can always predict. I know if I'm a 3.0, I know I have a 4.0. I know if I didn't give that much effort, I'd be happy with a 2.5. I know even before the teacher would give it to me. And if there are any discrepancies, I would always challenge my professor to compute it in front of me. I am that precise of my output. I know my strengths. I know where my interests are captured. And I know when I was dilly-dallying, or I know when I was really, putting my 100% on something. And in today's episode, I want you to focus on how you can build yourself and eventually have your own voice and stand out. Basically, stand out in this very, very competitive landscape. Okay? So in this episode, let us define and review some of the barriers that hold us professional women back from achieving the success that we deserve. And I will share tips on how you can create a personal brand, something that you can be really proud of and build your value in this marketplace. And eventually, I want you girls to walk away with strategies where you can succeed and thrive in your business or in your chosen niche. Okay? So first, how do I make myself stand out in a competitive environment, in a competitive landscape? I know, for most of us, we would always have this second voice who'd tell us that we are not enough, that I am not qualified because I don't have an MBA, or because I don't have that certification yet, I'm not qualified to talk about this or that, or because I am a working mom and I don't have enough time to finish the certification, or because I am a single mom and budgets are quite limited. There are a lot of roadblocks every time you wanted to pursue something. I know that. I've been there, honestly. In my past episode, I shared with you how long it took me to finally become a YouTuber. It took me 6 years to finally decide to shoot my first video for YouTube. And I know for some of you, I know it can be a little longer. For some of you, can be a lot shorter. But we all have been there. Every time we are in an uncomfortable situation or an uncomfortable thought, to be honest. I mean, let's start with the thought, with the idea that we wanted to pursue something. For example, you cook well and you wanted to have your own food business, but there's always this but. I wanted to start my own business, but I'm shy. I hate finance. I can't make it work. I don't know anything about marketing, or I don't know anything about business. I'm only a homemaker. We always try to downplay our abilities, our skills, our talents. Like a lot of girls, a lot of you may have this very big dream, very ambitious goal. But then again, there's always a but. But I don't have a good camera as a YouTuber. But I'm afraid my friends would just laugh at me. There's always this big but. People feel inadequate or not enough, no matter how many certificates that they have on their CV. It's just not enough, because you always have that second voice. Your worst critic is always you. And you know what? No matter how many certificates or diplomas or trainings that you ever take, there's no blueprint or roadmap to navigate this ever-evolving ecosystem, this ever-changing competitive landscape. From all of us being in the traditional way of applying for things like employment, I'm old enough to experience having to submit your CVs to your university so that they can help submit it to the employers. And then eventually people migrated to JobStreet and then to LinkedIn. I don't know, maybe right now they're submitting it to Facebook. I don't really know how it goes right now. We all started from there. Like for the generations earlier than us, they would go to each companies by foot and submit their hard copies, their papered CVs to the HR and schedule an appointment through that route. Luckily for the Gen Zers, you just get to submit it all via email or submit it through the company website. It's so much more convenient. And with that ever-changing, non-traditional landscape, that digital marketplace, it can cause some uncomfortable situations or uncomfortable thoughts. Like, it's so hard to navigate all of these changing ecosystem, especially now, like in the past year. So many things have evolved, right? A lot of companies are forced to put everything online, convert everything digital. To me, it's good because a lot more people, even the older generations, would have to adapt. And it sort of levels out the playing field, sort of, It forces everyone to be in that same level of being digital. Okay, so let me just share with you like some of the major areas that normally holds us back. Okay? So the first is we lack strategy. Like, we have an idea, a very big idea, a dream or a goal. For example, for me, I just wanted to create a very nice clean beauty brand. And I also wanted to create like a pet care brand that's targeted to cats. That was my big idea for Capricorn Pets. And sometimes we have a lot of big ideas. We have a lot of things that we want. And it's so hard for us to finally choose which one is it. Which one is the one that would finally be really something concrete than just stay as an idea. Execution is so much more important than ideation. And if we lack strategy, all of those good ideas, all of those dreams would probably remain as a dream even 10 years from now. You need good strategies, a good work plan, a good, step by step. How can you execute your idea? How can you make it happen? Another area that normally holds us back, aside from lacking strategies or ways of executing properly is our personal obstacles, our second voice. You know, that little voice who always feeds negativity in our left ear. Things in our head that's holding us back, telling us how inadequate we are, how much we're not enough. I mean, how many of you have attended a seminar on how you can stand out? Honestly, can you tell me you've ever attended such seminars? None, right? I mean, I've never attended any of those. I've never seen one, honestly. And because of that, people feel ashamed. They feel embarrassed. They feel inadequate. And they don't know how to articulate themselves in an interview or in a public speaking presentation. Because nobody has ever talked about this topic. What can make you stand out? And because we were never taught of this, naturally, some of us wouldn't know. I was lucky to know a little bit about it because of my experience. But for most of you who are listening right now, if you've been in your company for X number of years, 10 years, 8 years, I'm sure you've never really thought about this. I mean, you've never really thought of building your own personal brand because you are in another company. You're basically working for someone else. But let me ask you, how many hours have you invested in building your own personal brand? For sure, for those of you who are in the corporate world, I would assume you'd say none. I would assume you'd say 0 because, I mean, why do I need my personal brand? I'm working for XYZ company. And, you know, you're always so focused in giving your 100% for that XYZ company. But if you're an influencer or a YouTuber, perhaps you would say, I've been doing this already. Especially for those of you who has a Facebook fan page or an Instagram account that says you are a public figure. I'm always very entertained by that. For those who call them a public figure. Very interesting. But you know what? Personal branding is actually for everyone. Whether you are in the corporate world, whether you are an entrepreneur, or an intrapreneur. What do you mean by an intrapreneur? Basically, if you're working for someone else, you can still stand out within that organization and build your brand even if you're working for someone else. Okay? When I was in PNG, all of us are entrepreneurs. All of us know our strengths. We are basically very individualized. We know our strengths. We know our accountability. And as an entrepreneur, it's like you are a never-ending problem solver. Basically, you take a problem and offer a solution for it. That's what an entrepreneur is, basically, in simple terms. And as an entrepreneur, everything is on your shoulders. And it's also a challenge to build a personal brand that reflects your entrepreneurial spirit. For me, for Caticorn, when I was about to start my business, I had very, very simple goals. Initially, I just wanted to offer like very pretty things for your home, for your bathroom. I just wanted a creative output coming from a very toxic corporate environment. I just needed to release. And that is how Caticorn came to be. Even the logo of my company, I personally designed it with my computer mouse. It was that tedious. I didn't even hire someone else. I wanted to do everything by myself. And I wanted everything about my company as part of my creative process. If you are an intrapreneur, you just have to think about your deliverables, your digits at the end of the day, how you are being rated, how you are being ranked in the company, and that's it. By the time you're home, you don't really have to think about all of those, for most of you. But if you are an entrepreneur, the thinking never stops. You're working basically in all of your waking hours, believe me. And it's okay because it's more fulfilling that way. Well, at least for me. But I know there are people who are honestly enjoying their corporate life, and that's okay too. As long as you're happy in whatever position that you're in right now, and you find yourself feeling fulfilled and you feel some sort of success, then it's gonna be fine. You don't really have to force yourself to become an entrepreneur if you're happy and contented as an intrapreneur, right? Alright, so next is, I'll share with you some steps on how you can define and create your personal brand this 2021. So first is, build your personal brand. That's step one. You know, the value that you can bring to your company, to your client, or to who that you are selling to, or you're working with. What makes you, you? You know, you can be the human calculator, or you can be known as the devil's advocate, or you can be the most efficient employee in your organization, or the most resourceful. You can be the artsy type who makes everything beautiful with your hands. I mean, there are so many titles that you can adopt. Just know your strengths and make it shine. And eventually people will recognize you, your uniqueness, your USP, honestly, unique selling proposition. The beauty of this is that none of us is the same. Our backgrounds, our goals, our cultural upbringing, everything about us can let us offer something unique on the table. All of us would have the opportunity to create our personal brand. Basically, what differentiates you to the next person. It's just a matter of identifying our strengths and what we're good at, and be able to use that towards our advantage. Okay? So step 2 is to understand benefits of upholding your personal brand. Why do you really have to have your own personal brand? Why do you even have to think about it? Like, maybe sit down on it, think about it, write a journal about it. When you are known for something, when you are considered as an expert in that specific niche, people start to chase after you. Believe me. They take notice of your expertise, and they know that you're on, you know what, when you're on top of mind of a person because of that specific niche or for that specific niche, you can have a higher impact if you don't blend in, if you stand out, and if you have become to that point where you're the top of mind. For example, aromatherapy. I think I've built myself in that arena here in the Philippines. And so when you talk about, you know, the proper ways of diffusion, when we talk about hydrosols, when we talk about beauty formulations, when we talk about animal aromatherapy, I'm sure you might link them with me, because these are the things that I've been doing for, I would say, 4 years now. And though there are a lot of other aromatherapists now, we have our differences. We have our own niche. And apparently for me, I've always identified myself as someone who is knowledgeable in plant-powered beauty, in botanical formulations. Just like in the summit. So those are the topics that I've covered. If you're going to be asking me about child safety or, you know, pregnancy and breastfeeding women, I wouldn't know much about those arena because it's not related. It doesn't resonate with me. I've never been pregnant. I don't have a child. Those are the things that don't really resonate with me, and therefore my expertise would definitely be far away from those topics in aromatherapy. Okay? But if you talk about animal aromatherapy, I'm sure a lot of you who are listening right now would think about me, or about formulations, about, you know, all those little crafty things about aromatherapy. Like perfume making, balm making, what else? blend making, lotion making. I'm teaching that this May. Candle making, a lot of these crafty things. I've really immersed myself. It's because it's part of who I am. Ever since I was young, I'm always into these artsy things. So when you are known for something, when you are considered as an expert in your niche, you actually have a higher impact when you don't blend in. If you have your own voice and represent what's most important for you, things will come around eventually and naturally. And if you're the only person in that specific niche, if you're the top problem solver in that arena, people pay top dollar to work with you. You can make more money if you have your own personal brand, and if you stand out and you have more opportunities, if you stand out in something than just being, a copycat of someone else. And you know what's worse about that? When people can't really decide to go with you or to go with your competitor, sometimes your potential client just forgets both of you. Or, or what's worse, it becomes a price war. They would just go for the one who's cheaper. So it's very important for you to build your expertise, to build yourself, your personal brand as an expert in that specific field. And if you become that, if you become the top of mind resource person for whatever problem that is, or for whatever niche that is, you get to do whatever you want, your passion. You get to do it for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life. Imagine that. Okay? Step 3 is to build brand awareness. You have to be visible. You have to start working on your social media. Make sure it's on public. Go on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok if you can. Because everything's just free. You can promote yourself in those platforms for free. You can create your own .com. And other platforms like, create a podcast, create a YouTube channel. Just throw yourself out there. Just make sure that you are visible. Or, if you don't want to build your own, you can be in someone else's platform. Like, you can be in other people's podcasts. You can be a guest in someone else's IG Live. You can be a guest contributor in someone else's blog. Value engagements. For me, you may notice that I've always supported a lot of newcomers here in the Philippine aromatherapy arena. Like whenever I learn about someone, another girl, a new girl who's taking up the certification, I'm all for them. I've always rooted for them. And you can ask them. I've always shared my platform to all the newcomers. I've always invited them to join me on my Instagram Live, to join me on my YouTube channel, to join me in whatever platform that I have. It's because I wanted to share my audience to the newcomers. I wanted them to feel welcome, and I just wanted to give them more exposure. I've always welcomed everyone with open arms and let them step into my social media, even if I feel that sometimes, well, most of the time, it's not really reciprocated. And it's okay because I guess we have different ideals in life. I've always valued authentic connections, and I've always wanted to build creative camaraderie with people. I don't really see people a lot as competitors. I wanted to work alongside them. I wanted to build like a very fruitful and efficient aromatherapy world here in the Philippines. And so I've never really looked at them as a competitor, and that's why I've always invited all of them in whatever platform that they can be in. I'd invite you for my IG Live. I'd give you exposure on my YouTube channel. You may notice a lot of them have already guested in a lot of my platforms simply because I wanted to support more girls who are knowledgeable about essential oils. And because I know that with knowledge, people will eventually learn about essential oil safety. I can't do it on my own. You know, we need a tribe, we need a community to do that. And simply because I like building a network of knowledgeable and responsible and hopefully mature comrades, mature women who share the same ideals. And sometimes it's not always the case. You know, I've met people that can be a little shady, and so I tend to stay away from those people. Because, you know, I'd rather put my effort, my time to something more fruitful than to think about, you know, those things, right? And it's the same thing. It's the same thing for the aromatherapy arena here in the Philippines. It's the same thing for other makers, other crafters. I've always built a good relationship with other crafters here in the Philippines. Sometimes we even meet like in someone else's lab or someone else's workstation and talk about shabu bars, talk about soaps. And there's not really like a competitive ambiance, like sharky competitiveness. You know, there's always that creative camaraderie environment maintained. Well, at least for the other makers that I've met. And even in the coffee industry, in my coffee groups, I've always enjoyed hanging out with different circles and observing how the dynamic is in that circle. And, you know, you can easily pinpoint, or, you know, you can easily single out those who are just jealous and sharky and, you know, those that would tiptoe behind your back. And eventually you will learn that you should stay away from those people. Those are not really good for you. You can be civil, you can be polite when you're with them, or, you know, when you are in an audience, but you don't really have to build like, you know, buddies or close ties with those people. It's good riddance, believe me. Okay? And you know what? You don't really have to be the best in everything. If you can, why not? But if not, if you have like a single expertise or a, you know, a limited range of expertise, it's fine. In fact, being a referral network is just as important as being the key person. Knowing who you can turn to, knowing who you can refer. For example, if you have a student who is asking you, oh, okay, I wanted to learn more about, for example, I wanted to learn about hypnobirthing. I'm not knowledgeable about hypnobirthing, but I know someone who is, and I can refer her to you because I know a certified aromatherapist who is also a certified hypnobirthing teacher who can help you with that. So, you know, being a person who can direct other people to the right person is just as important as being the key resource person. Whether if it's not you or if it's someone else, leading your client, your customer, to someone to solve that problem is very, very important. Remember, your network is your net worth. And visibility, going back to building brand awareness, visibility lets you basically build your credibility. The more you are out there, the more likely that you're building your voice, you're letting people know what you're doing, the more you're likely to let people know that you are legit. They're going to be thinking that, oh, she must be an expert in that arena because she talks so much about it. She produces a lot of content about it. You know, if someone walks the talk, people would get that impression that that person is credible. Eventually, when you walk the talk so much, you will be acknowledged as a key resource person, as the voice, or in my case, I am acknowledged as a nose in the industry. And, you know, I get to be invited to speak in an audience. Step 4 is you have to know how to nail the art of humble brag. For those of you who are very social media savvy, I'm sure you are an expert in this, in humble bragging. Basically, your social media platforms, your Instagram, your Facebook, those are a big avenue to humble brag. You know, you have to get comfortable in talking about why you are the expert in what you're doing. Why they should turn to you whenever they're having that specific problem. You know what? Filipinos are naturally shy. They don't really want to talk about their achievements. We tell ourselves that, you know, we're not qualified. We hate talking about ourselves. We're afraid that no one would like us. We'd fear that people think that we are mahangin. But if you have ambitious goals, like really big dreams, you have to be confident. You have to have the courage to talk about yourself, to bring yourself out there and get feedback. And you know, you have to keep this cycle going to continuously improve yourself and eventually build confidence. So, you know, just put yourself out there. Let them know who you are. Talk about your skills, your talents. Walk the talk and get feedback. Keep that in a cycle, because if you're not seeking feedback, how are you going to get better, right? How can you improve yourself? So feedback is very, very important. When I was starting, when I was, you know, in my early years of teaching aromatherapy, I'd always have my significant other to attend all my classes, double purpose. He'd always take my videos and give me feedback on how I did in the class, if, you know, my voice projection is okay, if he thinks whether the participants are happy with the class, if each and every one of them stepped out of the class with a smile. You know, those little things are important to me. Those visual cues are really important to me. It doesn't matter to me the number. It's always quality over quantity. I don't mind if I have 4 students in my class, honestly. I don't even mind if I have a student in my class. I'd still push through with it. But what's important to me is I've connected with that student or in that group of students. And what's important to me is they remembered me because of that class. That they were happy, they understood whatever I wanted to teach. And at the end of the day, they can recreate our activity on their own. That's my ultimate measure of success. If my students are able to create their own soaps on their own, or, you know, create whatever that he or she have learned in the class on his or her own. And it really makes me happy when those, you know, when feedbacks like that comes to me, that you know, they enjoyed my energy, they felt, I just give 100% of my energy every class. With that, in the hopes that, you know, my energy somehow helped them absorb whatever I wanted to teach for that specific class. Okay, so step 5, you have to be crystal clear in what you want. Decide. Ask yourself, what does success mean to you? What are you going after? What impact would you have in your community? You know, you're doing all of these things for what? If the sky is the limit, what legacy do you want to leave behind? What do you want to be remembered for? And how can you inspire others? At the end of the day, what really drives me is what keeps me doing the things that I'm doing is because every time a girl slips a DM and tells me how I have inspired her in taking up the course, or how I have inspired her in being more responsible in oiling, you know, those little comments really build my confidence. And you know, it's just a good affirmation that I'm doing the right thing. I'm in the right path. It feels good, right? I mean, it feels good to spread positivity, to spread this energy that inspires. Okay? And finally, let's talk about how you can navigate the discomfort that comes with building your own brand. I know sometimes it's not always birds and butterflies, rainbows and unicorns. But in order for you to grow, you have to become confident and build your personal brand. You have to curate your own story. You have to be confident in what you're doing, even if it's uncomfortable. Because you gotta get comfortable in being uncomfortable. And you know what? It's just always in the beginning. Like me. When I started blogging in WordPress, I was so shy. I formatted my blog similar to Gossip Girl. So it's a faceless blog. You can never ever see like any physical proof or physical clue that would lead to me. It's so anonymous because I was so shy. I was so shy then. I started my blog in 2008. It was a blog. It was on WordPress. I had to type everything down. You know, blog was the thing then. And I was just so shy. So it was, that is why Couch Wasabi came to be. Because it's supposed to be like a secret. Like Gossip Girl. Like nobody knows who Couch Wasabi is. And eventually I've gained like a following for my beauty posts. Companies are working with me, you know, sending me tickets for movies, sending me this and that. It was amazing. Those were the days. And eventually, of course, companies would want to work with you closer. They'd want to put a face in that name. And so after, I think it took me 6 years, 4 to 6 years to finally have the courage to post my face on my blog, couchwasabi.wordpress.com. It's really funny. And now you can just see me everywhere, in every platform as Couch Wasabi. So, you know, we all started uncomfy, but we have to face it. We have to be comfortable in being uncomfortable. It's because it's the beginning stage that is always uncomfortable, but that's a good sign. When you're doing what's uncomfortable, you're basically challenging yourself. And in that process, you're growing. Yeah? So there, I guess it's all for today. I think I've talked about it enough. And I hope you girls are enjoying this episode. I hope that it inspired some of you. It gives you some courage to start your own thing, your own business, and basically build your personal brand. If you have any other questions about it, if you want to consult with me, just slip me a DM on my Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. And I hope to see you on my next podcast episode. Bye! So I hope you've enjoyed today's episode here on my podcast. To receive updates and new episode alerts, don't forget to follow me here on Spotify. Or to see what I'm up to, don't forget to follow me on my Instagram at HappyOilerPH. And I'll see you on my next Live Well with Aromatherapist, Jerby Ko.